What's up, YouTube? I'm the Vanilla Nerd, and today I really want to talk about Marvel Phase 4 and what they should have done. I was very tempted to talk about the downfall of Marvel and how things are just not going well for them right now, but I decided to put a positive spin on it and show how they could have done really well with Phases 4 and 5, but they just kind of, missed the mark, missed the step. I don't know. There's 1,001 reasons why Marvel is struggling right now, but I don't really want to get into that. I want to focus on what they could have done and what they should have done to make a better Phase 4 and to be a more interesting franchise than they are currently. Because right now, there's not a lot of interest in their projects. They come out and they come and go, and you just don't really care. So it is what it is. Now, in talking about Phase 4, I believe it's important to address the elephant in the room, which was the fact that Phase 4 was always going to be a challenge, always going to be really hard. After the climactic events of Endgame and the losing of Captain America, Iron Man, and Black Widow, now they're all gone. And we can't rely on their star power of the actors and the charisma of the characters and the interactions and their stories anymore to tell good stories. We have to move forward, and that was always going to be a challenge. But not an impossible one. The benefit that Phase 4 had is that they already had a cinematic universe built up. They already had an audience that wanted to see where they were going to go next. Unfortunately, it feels like Phase 4 just squandered that. They went all over the place, and there really was no direction, and that's kind of sad. So I have 3 big ideas for what Phase 4 should have done, and it's all based off of Phase 1. In Phase 1 of Marvel, they set up their flagship characters. Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor all were very successful movies. And then they even included Black Widow and Iron Man 2. So they all introduced these new characters that were fun. They had intentionality behind them. They had thought behind them. They wanted to make these characters good and likable. And then Avengers 1 comes around. They all get together, and it's super fun, super entertaining, and something that we as an audience haven't seen before. And we really enjoyed that crossover event. We really enjoyed those characters, and we really enjoyed the plot of the MCU. It worked so well. Captain America set up the Tesseract, which became the MacGuffin of the Avengers movie, and then Thor set up the main villain, Loki, who became the main villain of the first Avengers movie. So it just worked really, really well together, and that is absolutely 100% what Marvel should have done with Phase 4. So up on screen, I've put these 3 points down. Choose your flagship characters, create crossover event movies, and indicate the overall plot of the MCU moving forward. That is what Marvel should have done with Phase 4, but they didn't do that. So let's examine each point and what they could have done to have succeeded with that. Now, in examining these points and providing examples of what Marvel should have done, I am going to use the foundation of the Phase 4 that we did get. So I'm going to make my Phase 4 kind of go in a multiverse saga direction with Kang as a big bad. That is not necessarily the only thing that Marvel could have done. They absolutely could have gone in a different direction. They could have gone a more galactic route and had Galactus to the Devourer of Worlds be a problem, but then make increased emphasis on characters like Captain Marvel, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and other space-faring superheroes to be a focus of this thing, and could have been the plot of the next couple phases of the MCU. Or you could have gone in a more earthbound direction with Doctor Doom being a very big problem, and you introduce the Fantastic Four early on and you bring in a lot of that kind of stuff. Or maybe the mutants becomes an issue and it's a mutant saga, and there's the outbreak of the mutants now that are causing issues for the superheroes because they don't know how properly to deal with that. And it'd be really interesting to see the mutants in context of a larger superhero filled world, as opposed to what we've typically seen them as, a self-contained issue. So anyway, point I'm trying to get across is there's many different directions that Marvel could have gone, but I am choosing to go with the multiverse saga, and that is the kind of direction and points that I will kind of allude to. So in talking about the first point, choose your flagship characters. Marvel did not choose flagship characters. There is no character in Phase 4 that I feel like I am significantly attached to that has shown up multiple times in Phase 4 as a significant character. There just really isn't anyone. Doctor Strange is close. He was a main character in No Way Home and in his own movie, but still, he's the closest we've got, and even he really wasn't that well developed or thought out, and that's unfortunate. And what this creates is a lot of characters are now in the MCU, and I don't know which ones to care about. I don't know which ones to focus on. In the MCU phases 1 through 3, even though they introduced a lot of characters, almost every single one of them could be linked back to Captain America, Iron Man, Black Widow, Thor, or in a lot of cases, the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, I will full-heartedly admit that the Guardians of the Galaxy were always kind of a separate thing and a separate entity. And so in that way, a thing like the Eternals or She-Hulk or some of these other offshoots could have worked, maybe, but Guardians of the Galaxy succeeded because it was legitimately really good movies and really good characters that we liked and enjoyed. I can't say the same, unfortunately, about a lot of these other offshoot projects like the Eternals, like Hawkeye or Moon Knight or She-Hulk. I know there's fans of each one of those projects. I'm not trying to put down the fans of those projects, but what I am saying is that the larger audience are not fans of those projects, and it's a problem. So what Marvel could have done, though, instead, is made a big emphasis on Captain America. And I'm talking about Sam Wilson, Captain America. He's the new Captain America moving forward. All right, he is one of our big flagship characters. Next, I would have had Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi is a fantastic character. I really enjoyed his movie. That he would be great as a flagship character, and seeing the friendship between him and Sam Wilson, Captain America, could have been great. And seeing how they bond, but how they differ, would have been interesting, and it could have been almost like an Iron Man, Captain America thing of the original 3 phases. So that could have worked. Next, I want to go with Doctor Strange. I feel like he would function a lot like Thor, where he's a little bit distant from the Avengers. He's off doing the magical realm as opposed to Thor's space realm, but he would still be a flagship character because I really like Benedict Cumberbatch. I really like Doctor Strange. He's a very fascinating character, and I loved him in Infinity War. So if they put some thought and effort into his character, I think he absolutely could have become a flagship character with the rest of them. And then lastly, I'd have Wanda. Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch. She is a fantastic hero. She has earned her place as one of the most powerful Avengers. We just keep seeing her power and her abilities just grow and foster and become great. And so I really like Wanda. I think after all this time, she would work great as our next flagship character. So, in answer to what Marvel could have done, those are your flagship characters: Captain America, Sam Wilson, Doctor Strange, Shang-Chi, and Scarlet Witch. Hello, I want to take a pause real quick. This is Future Vanilla Nerd here, or should I say Editing Vanilla Nerd. And I just want to mention that these are the flagship characters that I think would work best for the Multiverse Saga, but of course, you could have chosen different ones. Thor or Loki would also be great options. Some of the new ones they introduced, you could do like a She-Hulk if she was more involved and more willing to be a superhero. She could work great, and others. And also, if they weren't going in a Multiverse Saga direction, different characters would work better as flagship characters. So if you went a more galactic route, that's where your Captain Marvels, Nova being introduced, the Fantastic Four being introduced would also all work as flagship characters for the MCU. With the mutants, something like Professor X or Cyclops or someone would also work really well for a mutant saga focus. So there's all different kinds of flagship characters. These 4 are just one example. All right, next we have make crossover event movies. And I purposely say crossover event and not Avengers. It does not need to be an Avengers movie. There were plenty of crossover events outside of the Avengers movies that happened in the first 3 phases. You have things like Captain America 2 that had Captain America and Black Widow crossing over, along with introducing a new superhero, the Falcon. And yes, I know they introduced him in that one, but honestly, the Falcon is a big name superhero. He has comics that are solely Falcon comics. So introducing these 3 major superheroes and having all of them interact in one movie was really fun to see and really exciting. And that was just one movie that was great. Thor Ragnarok, same thing. Doctor Strange and Hulk both made appearances. Ant-Man, the very first one, you may forget, but Falcon showed up in that. He might not have been a full-fledged character, definitely more of a cameo and whatnot, but he still was in that movie, and it added to this connected universe and to this crossover event style of movie and stuff. And so Phase 4 is decidedly lacking in that. Now, It's not to say it's without crossovers. Wong shows up in half a dozen projects. Doctor Strange, we've already noted, it appears in both Spider-Man No Way Home and his own movie. Wanda notably appears in WandaVision and Doctor Strange 2. But the closest we honestly get to a crossover event, like the biggest crossover event, is Spider-Man No Way Home, where you have multiple Spider-Men and multiple Spider-Man villains appear in the same movie. It was very exciting and very fun to see, but that's not a crossover of the MCU. That's just a crossover of previous Spider-Man movies. And so it's really unfortunate, and it feels lacking. The next closest is Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness, and that one has its own problems, which we'll get to here in talking about what Phase 4 should have done. But that's the closest they've got. Like, there's very little other crossover. They introduced all these cool characters, and I thought, like, I remember when Phase 4 originally started with, like, WandaVision and Falcon the Winter Soldier, I was like, okay, when are we going to see John Walker again? When are we going to see White Vision again? I was stoked. I thought, like, it was inevitable. They were going to happen very, very soon. But no, they didn't show up in any future projects anytime soon. They still haven't shown up in any future projects, and it's just so sad and disheartening. Because the strength of the MCU was that they used to do these crossover movies where characters would come together. And yes, we get to see them battle each other and how their powers would interact, but also we got to see them just socially interact. How would their personalities gel versus rub off against each other? And how would they, where would the friction be? Where would they come together? It's just, that was interesting. That was fun. That is what differentiated the MCU from a normal superhero franchise, and that was exciting. And the fact that we don't have crossover events in Phase 4 is just baffling to me, just so baffling. So let's talk about what crossover event they should have done. Well, again, using the foundation of the Phase 4 that we got, let's make Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness a true crossover event. So now what I would do is I would have Doctor Strange, Wanda Maximoff be in there, and Falcon, Sam Wilson, Captain America, Shang-Chi, and Hawkeye all show up in this movie together. Let me explain. Now, notably, those characters include the 4 flagship characters, as well as, of course, Hawkeye. And I think they're all important to this story, and I'll explain why in a second. But having those 4 flagship characters would be really key, because it shows that in this crossover event, the very first one that's going to happen post Endgame, we are, this is the new emphasis. These are the new characters that you want to especially focus on and tune into and stuff. And all the other characters are going to be connected to them in some way, shape, or form. And I think that would work out beautifully. Now, what would the actual movie look like? I would follow the plot very closely to what Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness originally did, with some key differences. Number one is that Scarlet Witch would not be a straight-up evil villainess. Instead, I would make her a sympathetic enemy. She would still be a good person at heart, but it would be very obvious that the Darkhold has power over her. We would see it corrupting her, and we'd have a few scenes where she tries to resist, but she just can't quite do that. It is a classic magic trope, and it would work so well, and just makes sense. I'm honestly kind of sad that they didn't do this for the original movie, but this entire video is me being sad that they didn't do this for the original Phase 4, so whatevs. Point is, the focus of this movie would be how do we save Wanda from the Darkhold, not how do we stop Wanda because she's straight up evil. That's the point. Now, how does this look? How does this work then? I think I'd have the beginning of the movie be fairly similar. America Chavez would still be being chased. Doctor Strange would still be helping her. Maybe you add one of the other variants of like Shang-Chi or Captain America in there. That could work out pretty well. So we see other Avengers trying to help her, not just other characters trying to help her. But regardless, it's not super important. The important thing is once Doctor Strange has this little meeting with Wanda, his first one, and realizes, oh, she's a little crazy, she's a little cuckoo, he would realize, I need to save her from the Darkhold. So he'd go back to Kamar-Taj to defend it, but then he'd be like, all right, I need help to save Wanda. I don't know her that well, but let me call up her friends. So he calls up Captain America, the winged one, not the super strong one, and I'm going to just assume you understand that from here on out. So he calls up Captain America, and he says, hey, I need the Avengers. Wanda's struggling. She needs help. And Captain America's over there being like, well, I'm not really sure if I'm even the leader of the Avengers anymore, if we even exist. And Doctor Strange is like, well, figure it out because Wanda needs help. And so Captain America would say, okay, I'll see what I can do. He brings Hawkeye there because Hawkeye's still an Avenger. He's still willing to help. And honestly, when it comes to Wanda Maximoff, he always has a soft spot because he feels bad. He feels like he owes a debt to her because her brother saved his life. And makes sense. They've had a strong relationship in the MCU. They even had that moment at the end of Endgame where they were together, and it was just very sweet. So I think Hawkeye would be absolutely fit into this movie great. Also be kind of fun if he combined with the magic archers at Comertage. That'd be kind of interesting to see how they work and stuff. And Hawkeye's always great. So Hawkeye and Captain America show up. So that would work great. All right. Next, how does Shang-Chi come in? Well, Doctor Strange turns to Wong after his dismal conversation with Captain America, and he's like, well, I'm not sure the Avengers are going to be able to be much help. And then Wong says, I know a guy. Again, it's an echo back to Civil War where Falcon said, oh yeah, I know a guy, and was alluding to Ant-Man, but this time Wong is alluding to Shang-Chi. And so having Shang-Chi come in now makes all the sense in the world. We have all these characters now together. And so before the battle, we'd have that classic, social rapport where Captain America would be teasing like, oh, so today's problem is wizards, not androids or aliens. Tease back to Falcon and Winter Soldier, which would have taken place before this movie and stuff. And we would just have a very fun little moment with that. Maybe Doctor Strange gets mad. It's like, we're not wizards, we're sorcerers. There's a difference, yada, yada, yada. Doesn't really matter, but you have those fun connections. Maybe Captain America's like, so what do you do? Turning to Shang-Chi, and Shang-Chi's like, I'm really good at Kung Fu. Or maybe, Shang-Chi's just super humble about it. Yeah, I fight well, or something silly, I don't really know, but they could make that work, and that would be a key element of making the crossover event movie very fun, very entertaining. So how would the rest of the movie go? Well, America Chavez would be fearful, and she'd send herself and Doctor Strange and Captain America through the multiverse. They'd all end up at 838, but now instead of Doctor Strange being put on trial, Captain America would also be there. And it'd be really interesting to see his conversation with Peggy Carter, Captain Carter. That would be really fun to see how they interact and what they talk about and stuff. And maybe they see a kindred spirit in each other and are like, okay, we can be friends. And maybe that convinces her to trust Doctor Strange more because she's like, hey, if this Captain America vouches for him, then maybe he is better. I don't know, but it's an idea that's certainly on the table and could have been fun. And I definitely think Captain America going through the multiverse with Doctor Strange would have made it feel more like a crossover event movie and would have worked well. Now, I would still have the entire Illuminati just die from Wanda dreamwalking. I think that was a fantastic scene, and I think it would still work really, really well for the purpose of this movie. Moving forward, Shang-Chi and Wong would both go to Mount Wundagore with, what's her name? With Scarlet Witch. Sorry, I can't believe I forgot Scarlet Witch. But yes, they would still go. Those three now would go rather than just her and Wong. They'd all go to Mount Wundagore. And so then at the end, you'd have all of our heroes come together, have a big fight, have fun. As to what Captain America would be doing, I guess he would be helping... what is her name? Rachel McAdams' character. I forget, but he would be helping her fight off the demons from the demons of the dead from Doctor Strange, and that would work out pretty well. But in the end, the goal would be that they would destroy Wundagore or whatever. They'd destroy the mountain and save Wanda from the Darkhold. And Wanda would still be very much alive, and it would kind of be like out of the rubble. You'd see her, and she's like back to normal. She no longer has her creepy eyeliner and her creepy crown and stuff like that. So she'd be new, and she'd be cool. So what would this mean, though, for the MCU moving forward? Now, this would mean that we'd have a crossover movie. And the reason I go into it so much is just because I'm so excited. That would have been such a fun movie to see all these characters coming together in this grand movie and working hard to save Wanda and showing how difficult magic is compared to other things. Magic would be a big thing moving forward in the MCU. That would be great. The other thing is this shows how the multiverse is a big problem moving forward, and that it really scares Captain America and it scares other people. Maybe even Captain America feels bad about what happened on Earth 838, and he's kind of that emotional center that Doctor Strange doesn't see, where he's like, yeah, but we completely ruined this other universe's team of superheroes. What, like the implications of that are just astounding, and he just can't believe like what he was party to and stuff. And so there's these problems, there's these issues moving forward, and so that would be very, very interesting to see. And this connects to my third point of indicating the future of the MCU. As it stands, Phase 4 really had no direction. And it took a Comic-Con panel and Kevin Feige saying, yes, this has begun the multiverse saga, and we are leading up to a multiverse movie and Secret Wars and stuff, for us to realize, like, okay, that's what they're going for. Which is really, really sad. It would have been much easier and much better if they just hinted at this happening and stuff and shown that it was actually a problem moving forward and stuff, and shown it in this movie that the multiverse is dangerous, have those conversations between these four core characters, Doctor Strange, Captain America, Shang-Chi, and Scarlet Witch, and have them talking about, wow, the multiverse is really scary. Like, what if someone comes to our universe? What are we gonna do? And that's how you end the movie. Or you maybe not end the movie. You could still end with Doctor Strange and the third eye popping up. That was still a great ending, but you could do that. And then, in the post-credits, what would we do? Well, we'd indicate even more. And I would have Baron Mordo coming to a blonde woman with a blue shirt on. We'd only see her from behind. And he says, that's how they killed your husband, Reed Richards. And boom, now we know this is Invisible Woman. And then we have an ominous thing of, they must be stopped. Dun, 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 dun. And that would lead into Avengers 5. So, here's my big idea with the overall plot of the multiverse saga and of all that stuff. Avengers 1 and 2 did a great job of showing the dangers of an Infinity Stone. In Avengers 1, it was the Tesseract. In Avengers 2, it was the Mind Stone. And then in Avengers 3, all of the Infinity Stones were a problem. And heck, there were even solo movies that were focusing on an Infinity Stone, like Captain America 1, Thor 2, and Guardians of the Galaxy, that showed these Infinity Stones being a problem all by themselves. So we see the danger of just one Infinity Stone. But what about multiple? What about all of them together? And that's what it kind of led up to, and that's how they ramped up. And that's how, they built this really exciting movie that is Infinity War and Endgame. So that's great. So they should do the exact same thing with the multiverse. The first Avengers movie should be problems with one other universe. And maybe even the next Avengers movie should be problems with the second universe. But then when they get to Secret Wars, it's all the universes. It's all the problems. That's the movie. That's the game plan. So Avengers 5, what would that look like? Well, that would look like Earth 616, as the MCU defines it, versus Earth 838. That's what it would become. And it wouldn't just be a plot of revenge, because I don't think Invisible Woman would truly be out just for revenge, although maybe she is because of how horrible her husband was killed, cut to ribbons. So maybe she is out for revenge against Wanda, which is why it's crucial that she's still alive, because now it gives her a very real motivation. And, even though, yes, she was controlled by the Darkhold, but they don't see it that way. They just see she's still evil. She's still a danger to this universe and stuff. But also, the fact that Doctor Strange has that third eye, that's very concerning. That's very problematic, and maybe they're here to stop it. And so the plot of Avengers 5, without going too deep into what would actually happen, is just that Doctor Strange and Wanda would be enemy number 1 of Earth 838. And seeing alternate versions of our heroes from Earth 838 battling our heroes from Earth 616, again, as the MCU defines it. Of course, we know that the MCU is technically Earth 199999, but it is what it is. So, that is my plan. And that is what Marvel should have done with Phase 4. And it's honestly just so sad because it's what they did with Phases 1 through 3. They built up to these crossover event movies, and their crossover movies were some of the best movies out of all of the MCU. Think about it. Captain America 2, Captain America 3, Ant-Man 1, Thor Ragnarok. All really good movies that had multiple superheroes come together and be involved in one movie and stuff. So it's sad that they didn't do that. It's sad they didn't focus on that. But it's not just the crossover. It's also the fact that they showed at the end of Phase 1 that Infinity Stones and Thanos were going to be a big problem. And so we knew about that. And something I forgot to mention with the big bad is that Phase 5, how would Earth 838 be able to travel to Earth 616? Well, it would be because of Kang, of course. And so I just have a Kang variant, give them a magic portal or a magic wristwatch or whatever. Sorry, I say magic. It would really be a technological wristwatch or portal or something that allows Earth 838 characters to travel to Earth 616. And so now we'd have these other characters from an alternate universe attacking our heroes in Earth 616. It would be super fun. It would be super exciting. And it would be really good story and stuff. So that is what I would do with Phase 4. And so, and by doing that, you would have, you'd give the audience a clear sense of direction. Oh, we're moving towards the Kang Dynasty. We're moving towards Secret Wars. That is the direction that Marvel is going. And here is an example of just one of the multiverse problems. And of course, we know that there are many, many more. So that would work out really, really well. And lastly, by having those flagship characters focusing on Captain America, Shang-Chi, Scarlet Witch, and Doctor Strange, we would have some really fun characters that we could explore into deeper into, and explore what they're all about, how they work, what their motivations are, and we could see how they interact with each other. Maybe Captain America and Doctor Strange butt heads a little bit, a lot like how Captain America and Iron Man butt heads, but anywho, there's a lot of different ideas. It could have been really, really fun. The point is, it's all really a thought experiment at this point, but it is what Marvel should have done in the sense of creating in the sense of those 3 points. Because honestly, they could have been done with a completely different direction. You could have gone a galaxy-focused direction. You could have had Galactus be the big bad, and Captain Marvel, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and other galactic heroes. You could have introduced Nova, would have been our main heroes moving forward, and we could have seen a lot of new planets. We could have seen the dangers of Galactus. We could have seen how different people chose to fight him versus just flee from him, and all these different things. And it would have ended with the Fantastic Four being there, and them trying to get like the ultimate nullifier or something like that to stop Galactus. And that could have been very, very fun and a very entertaining couple of phases. You also could have gone with a Doctor Doom route, a more earthbound thing, and you could have had the Fantastic Four be involved there. They could have been involved in both. It doesn't really matter. You could also have done a mutant storyline. You could have had the mutants be involved here. And now there's this big question of, okay, if a lot of other people have superpowers, what does it really mean to be a superhero? And you could have had that interesting question. And if they're going to require mutant registration, should we also require superhero registration? I don't know. There's a lot of different exciting paths they could have gone down. It doesn't just need to be the multiverse path. I just chose that because that's what Marvel had already done, and I'm just iterating off of that. And so it's really sad that Marvel didn't do that. I wish Phase 4 could have been better. But moving forward with the MCU in general, I think the best thing that MCU could do right now is take a break, take a couple years off, really focus on telling a good story, mapping out the next phase or two, really plan it, and plan the character arcs, plan the stories, plan the things that they want to do, and plan in crossover events, and then boom, they could be making a lot of money by the end of that again. They're going to have to kind of start from scratch again, but it still could work. Now, are they actually going to do that suggestion? No, and that's unfortunate, but those are my thoughts. That's what I think Marvel should have done with Phase 4. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.